The country's biggest metro, the City of Johannesburg, has experienced a dramatic year, from having 4 mayors in just over a year to the firing and reappointment of the city manager Floyd Brink. The city's crumbling coalition government has been blamed for the instability and the chaos in the council. As we wrap up the year, let's recap some of the political dilemmas in the City of Johannesburg with political analyst Dr Levy Ndou. Dr. Ndou, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this afternoon. How would you describe the dynamics between the different coalition political parties that are currently in operation within the City of Johannesburg, given their different and their diverse political ideologies?
Good afternoon, Katleho. Good afternoon to the viewers at home. One would just describe the developments or the dynamics in the City of Johannesburg as chaotic, unstable, and indeed characterized by conflict. If you look at the City of Johannesburg, comparing it to other cities and other local councils in South Africa, you'd agree with me that even those that are working for the City of Johannesburg and those that are supposed to be getting services from the City of Johannesburg are constantly frustrated by what is actually unfolding in the City of Johannesburg. We have not even gone beyond 3 years after we have had elections. As you have rightfully indicated, we have had 4 mayors in the City of Johannesburg in a very, very short space of time. And that talks to the inability of political parties or no politicians to be unable to focus on things that matters, which is about bringing in stability and ensuring that they provide services to the people in a manner that will satisfy everyone.
Speaking of stability, I mean, Johannesburg residents have probably lost count with regards to how many mayors have exchanged chains since the passing of Jeff Makubo. What impact does this have, especially in terms of governance and decision-making in the city?
Well, it has a huge impact. When you constantly change political leadership everywhere, or when you change governance structures everywhere, it has a huge impact on the running, for an example, of the City of Johannesburg, because the constant shifting of political heads from one portfolio to the other affects the programs of that portfolio. It also negatively affects the supporting staff that are supposed to be working with these people, because on a regular basis, they have to be changing plans and programs because there is new personnel that is actually coming onto the picture. What also worsens the situation is that due to the fact that we've got a coalition government, those that are being brought in because they come from different political parties would therefore have to come with their own agendas, which has a potential to be different from the agenda of the previous political head. And that talks to the creation of confusion in the city. At the same time, ordinary citizens, as you have indicated, were actually waiting for certain things to be done, keep on waiting because programs and priorities would constantly be changing, and that is not good for the city.
It certainly can't be any good. I mean, looking back at some of the events that have happened in this past year, we saw the axing of Speaker Colleen Makhubele, and now the DA and Action SA in the city have now called for the dissolution of the city council. What does this say about compromise and those different ideologies that you make mention of? And is this a plausible call by these political parties to dissolve the entire council?
It talks to the level of trustworthiness and the level of seriousness that political parties have on the responsibilities that they are given. If indeed you have different political parties who cannot be able to work together for a simple responsibility of providing services, it therefore tells you that maybe some of our politicians do not understand, or they do not have the desire to serve the ordinary citizens. At the same time, when you have politicians being brought together by the electorate, and they fail not to observe simple procedures and protocols in terms of positions that certain people are given, it therefore tells you that our own politicians are only focusing on their positions and nothing else. And if you look at the number of motions of no confidence and removal of political heads in the city of Johannesburg, it has got nothing seriously to do with what will benefit the citizens. It has got a lot to do with politicians fighting for positions. And that defines our own politicians in South Africa. And indeed, political parties are supposed to do us a favor and bring in people that are going to be focusing on service delivery rather than fighting for positions in councils.
And I think that was my next question to you, saying, given the current status quo in the city of Johannesburg, if we are looking for a coalition government that will be very inclusive and representative of government, what needs to be done in order for us to have a successful coalition, especially in the city of Johannesburg?
We need a lot. We also need a situation where, when these political parties are entering into coalitions, they should come out to the public, explain what they have in place for the citizens, tell us what are their priorities as a coalition government, and also identify the terms in which they've entered into a coalition. Because what we have now in many coalitions are agreements that are done behind closed doors, and ordinary citizens do not know what are the real issues that has been agreed upon in these coalitions. And what we see on a regular basis is the removal of political heads, which frustrates ordinary citizens because, firstly, they don't know what was agreed upon, and secondly, they see a constant change of political leadership. And that is why politicians are worried that when it's election time, citizens no longer go and vote because they do not see the value of voting when politicians, instead of focusing on service delivery, they are actually focusing on positions. That demoralizes ordinary citizens from participating in the elections.
So, Dr. Ndou, are we saying there were absolutely no advantages that came out of this coalition?
There were advantages that came out of these coalitions. One advantage of coalition is that political parties are able to ensure that they check and balance each other on matters of service delivery and on procedural matters. At the same time, coalitions create a situation where those that are given responsibilities do not just sit down and relax because they know that there are other political parties that are baying for such positions, and if they do not perform, they are actually going to be removed from positions. Another biggest advantage of coalitions is that rather than seeing political parties standing apart, then they are able to come together, fuse their programs together for the benefit of the citizens. And that is exactly what we're waiting to see. We want to see the program of political party A, politically B, C, and others being brought together for the benefit of everyone. If all the energy and minds are brought in one place and in the best interest of the citizens, coalitions can provide the best services for citizens.
And surely there must be a lot of lessons learned out of the Johannesburg coalition. I mean, we're looking at the 2024 elections with the possibility of a national coalition. What could we draw from Johannesburg on a national level that we possibly could learn from come next elections in 2024?
Firstly, what we have learned is that there are certain politicians who would behave in an unpatriotic manner, who would not put the interests of the citizens first, who would only focus on their own personal gains. That is what we have learned from the city of Johannesburg and elsewhere. What we have also learned is that politicians would not spend a lot of time on issues that relates to their mandate. They will spend a lot of time fighting and not agreeing even on simple things. We've also learned that if agreements are done behind closed doors, it is a good opportunity for other politicians to exploit coalition arrangement and make it not work, because they would have known that their agreements were done behind closed doors and they are not binding. Another important aspect that we have learned from coalitions is that different political parties in the coalitions would make unrealistic demands which other coalition partners cannot meet, and that is the source of instability and conflict in these coalitions. And those are the areas, in my view, that need to be corrected so that as we move forward, South Africa can be a much better place to live in.
So looking ahead, what do you foresee for the coalition government of Johannesburg? Where do you believe the turnaround will be for this municipality?
It will require the efforts of the political parties to say, let's focus on what is important for the citizens and try to find one another and be able to ensure that whatever is in the best interest of the citizens is actually done. What we can also foresee is that if there is no mind shift from our own political parties, we should expect more and more instabilities happening in the city of Johannesburg, because politicians would make sure that those that are in power, as long as they are not the beneficiaries of the system, they'll make sure that such government is not stable, and they'll do all they could to ensure that it collapses. Unfortunately, it is not what we want, but that is what our politicians have taught us.
Truly a sad situation there for the city of Johannesburg, but of course we are hopeful in 2024 that things may turn around. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Dr. Levy Ndou, political analyst, speaking to us there, giving a recap about the city of Johannesburg and its coalition government.